Okay, what if I told you that the most effective way to lead is, well, the complete opposite of everything we've been taught? We're going to find the answer in a place you'd probably never expect, inside the world of elite military special operations. Turns out, the real secret to building these unbeatable teams, whether you're in a firefight or a boardroom, it isn't about power or command or control. It's about a paradox.
And this question gets right to the heart of it. Because we all have that image in our heads, right? You know, the general barking orders, the drill sergeant screaming into a recruit's face, demanding absolute, unquestioning obedience. We've seen it in a million movies. It feels like fact. But what if that stereotype isn't just a little bit wrong? What if it's the exact opposite of what it really takes to build teams that can win in the most chaotic, high-stakes places on the planet?
And right here, this is the puzzle. On one side, you've got the myth, all the screaming, the rigid, top-down command and control machine. But then you look at the reality, how these elite teams actually operate when everything's on the line, and it's completely different. It's a culture built not on fear, but on leaders who actually listen. It's powered not by robots, but by smart, creative people. And it runs not on command, but on trust and, get this, decentralized decision-making. So, what is going on here? How can these two things even exist in the same universe? Well, the answer starts to come into focus with this one idea. The source material makes it totally clear. These operators are not drones. They're smart, creative, free-thinking individuals. And for them to willingly risk it all, two things are absolutely non-negotiable. First, they have to believe, like really believe, in the mission's purpose. And second, even more important than that, they have to believe in and fundamentally trust the leader who's asking them to go into the fire. So that becomes the real mystery, doesn't it? How do you build that kind of unbreakable trust when the stakes are literally life and death?
All right, so to solve this mystery, we have to start looking for clues. We're going to conduct a little investigation. And our first piece of evidence, our first big clue, doesn't come from some glorious victory. It comes from a moment of absolute, catastrophic failure.
The scene is a brutal, messy gunfight in Ramadi, Iraq. It's a complex mission, with U.S. Navy SEALs fighting alongside Iraqi soldiers. And in the confusion, in the fog of war, the unthinkable happens. A friendly fire incident. A blue-on-blue. An Iraqi soldier is killed, and several others, including a U.S. SEAL, are wounded by their own side. In their world, this is the ultimate failure. It's a mortal sin that can completely shatter a team's trust and morale.
And that leads to this brutal question. In that kind of total chaos, with dozens of people, multiple units, countless moving parts all smashing into each other at once, when everything goes wrong in the worst way imaginable, who is actually to blame? You know, the easy thing to do is to start pointing fingers, blame the bad plan, blame the faulty radios, blame the other guy. But that is not what happened here.
What happens next is what's so incredible. In the debrief, back at base, the finger-pointing starts, but it's all pointed inward. One by one, the most junior guys on the team start stepping up to take the fall. A combat advisor says, "It was my fault. I should have kept better tabs on the Iraqi soldiers." The radio man jumps in, "No, it was my fault. I should have communicated our position more clearly." Every single person is trying to own their little piece of the disaster.
But then, the senior commander, Jocko Willink, he just cuts them all off. He stands up in front of everyone and says, "I had heard enough. There is only one person to blame. Me." He looks at his entire team and says, "I am the commander. I am responsible for everything that happens. I am responsible for all of it." And in that one moment, he just stops the blame game cold. He absorbs every single piece of that failure onto his own shoulders, and in doing so, he protects his team from its destructive weight.
And that single moment, that reveals our first clue. This core principle, extreme ownership. And this isn't just about, taking responsibility. It's a much deeper philosophy. It's the absolute belief that the leader is responsible for everything that happens in their world. Every mistake, every failure, every single oversight. There are no excuses. There is no one else to blame. When you're the leader, you own it all. Period.
So, okay, ownership is the first clue. It's a huge piece of the puzzle. But is it the whole picture? Our second clue comes from a totally different environment. It comes from what was basically a controlled experiment during the most grueling military training in the world. Navy SEAL buds.
Check this out. During Hell Week, which is 5.5 days of non-stop, cold, wet, sleepless misery, the trainees are put into these 7-man boat crews. And one crew, Boat Crew 6, was just a total disaster. I mean, dead last in every single race. They were always the last ones struggling up the beach. The team was just a mess of infighting, cursing, and frustration. They were about to quit. So, the instructors decided to try something.
They didn't change the team. They didn't get them a new boat. They swapped out one single person, the leader. The underperforming leader went to the best boat crew, and the winning leader from that top crew came to boat crew 6. The only variable that changed was leadership. And the result? Boat crew 6 went from worst to first. Instantly. They won the very next race and pretty much dominated for the rest of Hell Week.
The conclusion from this little experiment is, well, it's as blunt as it gets. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. When a team is failing, our first instinct is to blame the people on the team for not being good enough. But this experiment proved, pretty definitively, that the performance of any team is almost always a direct reflection of its leadership. This is our second and incredibly important clue.
Okay, so we have our 2 big clues. First, a leader has to take total, extreme ownership of every outcome. And second, there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. Now, on their own, these are really powerful ideas. But the surprising truth, the real secret here, is how they lock together.
See, the secret isn't just doing one of these things. It's how they fit together to create this powerful feedback loop. This isn't just some leadership tactic you try out and then forget about. It's a complete system. It's an interlocking engine of radical self-mastery.
So here's how that engine works. It all starts when a leader learns to emotionally detach from the chaos of the moment. That lets them see the whole battlefield, the big picture. And that clarity, that's what allows them to take extreme ownership, because they can see how everything connects back to their own decisions. Then, that radical accountability builds this unbreakable bond of trust with the team. They know their leader has their back, no matter what. And that trust, that's the currency that lets a leader empower their team through what's called decentralized command, giving them the freedom to make their own calls on the front lines. Which, of course, frees the leader up to detach and see the big picture all over again. You see? It's a powerful, self-reinforcing loop.
And this is the revelation. This is the paradox we started with. Elite leadership, the kind that actually wins, has almost nothing to do with controlling other people. It's all about achieving absolute, total control over yourself, over your ego, which tells you to blame someone else, over your excuses, which protect you from feeling failure, and over your emotions, which can absolutely cloud your judgment in the heat of the moment. The real power doesn't come from your rank or your title. It comes from your own discipline.
So, how can we actually use this? I mean, how do we take these lessons from the battlefield and apply them to our own lives, our own teams, our own problems? Let's distill it all down into 3 mental shifts you can start making today.
Okay, the first one. And this is probably the most important. It's about changing your default setting.
Default to ownership. For most of us, when something goes wrong, our gut reaction is to look for an external cause, right? To find a person or a situation to blame. This shift is about reprogramming that instinct. From now on, when a project fails, when you lose a deal, when the plan goes sideways, your first move isn't to point a finger. It's to look in the mirror and ask, how did I contribute to this? What could I have done differently to change the outcome? It's not about beating yourself up. It's about finding the power you have to fix the problem. Second, and this is the one that really flips conventional wisdom on its head, you've got to check your ego at the door. We're taught that leaders are supposed to have all the answers, right? To be the smartest person in the room. But this is where that paradox comes back in a huge way. A leader's true strength, their real power, it isn't found in hoarding authority and making every little decision. It's found in the humility and the confidence to give that power away, to trust your team, to empower others to lead their piece of the mission, and to truly believe that their success is your success. Your job isn't to be the hero. It's to build a team of them.
And the third and final shift is really what holds this entire system together.
Always explain the why. Look, you can't just hand out tasks and expect people to give it their all. True commitment, the kind of grit that pushes through chaos and setbacks, that only happens when your team doesn't just understand what they're supposed to do, but they deeply believe in why they are doing it. They have to understand the strategic purpose behind the task, and it is the leader's most important job to communicate that why clearly and constantly, until it's unforgettable.
So I'll leave you with this thought. If this level of ownership and trust and belief isn't just a nice to have, but it's the absolute requirement for winning under the most extreme conditions imaginable, what's the one single change you could make to the way your team, your project, or even your family operates starting tomorrow?